Good evening, Star Peoples. I'm your host, friend, and life coach, Mrs.Divine, and I bridge the gap between intuition and intelligence. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of ancestor altars, what they are, and what they mean to us.
Vibe high, vibe high.
There are many videos out there about ancestor altars and what they are. It seems to be that the only people who really need an explanation as to what altars are African-American people, Black people. Many other races understand the importance of ancestor altars and the importance of worshiping your ancestors and just offering things to them in general. It is us who have forgotten the things that are important when it comes to communicating with our ancestors. So there are many videos out there explaining to you how to do ancestor altars and what they're for, what to put on it. This video is not about that, okay? This video is connecting the intuition with intelligence, okay? It's bringing together the reason why connecting or communicating with your ancestors is important and why altars serve its purpose to help you realize your connection with them, okay? So what are altars? Altars are basically centers that we set up to worship and to communicate with the spiritual realm, okay? And what you put on your altar and your altar itself represents your subconscious mind, okay? And so that's important to remember because as you're watching different videos saying what you should have on your altar, what you shouldn't put on your altar, just keep in mind that whatever you have on there is going to be setting an impression upon your subconscious mind, okay? So when we communicate with our ancestors, we are doing that with or without an altar. The altar is used to help put that impression upon our subconscious mind so that we can consciously see and feel and have that intuitive feeling that we are connecting with our ancestors. This is a message from our ancestors, or our ancestors are guiding us in this direction or telling us this message, whatever it is, okay? So the altar is simply used as a way to consciously remind us to put it into our subconscious that we are in constant communication with our ancestors. That's it, that's all. There's nothing spooky, there's nothing scary about it. A lot of times you'll hear that, you know, if you put an altar in your house, you're opening up the gateways to spiritual realms. The gateways to spiritual realms are always open. It's just about your level of being able to connect to that, your level of understanding when it happens, your awareness, your consciousness. That is all it's about. Many times when someone passes away, we can talk to them or feel like we sense them, or all of a sudden their favorite song is, you know, playing on the radio, or you remember that they like to eat Snickers and, you know, so you're going to eat a Snickers because it reminds you of them, whatever the case. Or people may get upset and call out to, or not just upset, may miss or be grieving in some way and call out to someone who has passed. And so that's the same thing basically as communicating with your ancestors. The only difference is that you are just calling out to them, talking to them. You're not offering them anything to sustain where they are and make it comfortable and actually provide them with luxuries and things like that for where they're at, to help shift and raise their energy, okay? So that's the point of our offerings on the altar, is to give them energy and raise their vibrations or help them to use that energy to do whatever they're going to do where they're at currently. So just simply talking to them, praying to them is you consciously knowing that you are connected to them, but it's not you assisting them in any kind of way. And personally, I feel as if we already know we're connected to the spiritual realm. We already know we're connected to our ancestors, even if it's just the fact that you have a birthmark that your great grandma had. You never met your great grandma, but other people are telling you that. You know your connection. Your ancestors needed to be created for you to be who you are today. Every part of you is built from them, okay? Which goes into my next point, and saying that another way to look at an altar is the fact that not only is it your subconscious mind is subconsciously reminding you, it's placing a conscious reminder in your subconscious to let you know that you are in tune, in touch, and connected to your ancestors and the spiritual realm, it is also a way for you to realize consciously that you are your altar. Okay. Sometimes people get upset because they're ready to enhance their spiritual practice by placing an altar in their home, but for some reason or another, they are unable to do so. And they feel as if they are stifled in some kind of way, or that they just have to wait until they get their homes or their living situation to be a certain type of way before they can start their connection with their ancestors. Okay. If you can consciously understand what I'm saying right now, which is that you are your altar, you are your ancestors, then you would understand how an altar, a physical altar, is not necessary for you to give offerings to your ancestors or for you to communicate with your ancestors. Okay. A lot of the tools that I have for alignment, you begin to see as you start to utilize these tools that they are great for just that, tools, but they are not needed for your everyday life. You do not need any tool placed before you to do anything. So even with the altar, you do not need it to communicate with your ancestors. Your ancestors are you. But that's something that's challenging for many to understand because they, first of all, need that conscious mind reminder placed in their subconscious to remind them that they are connected before they can even believe in the power that they have in themselves. So physical altars are used for that reminder to us that we are our ancestors. But once you have an understanding that you are your ancestors, then you no longer have to rely on a physical altar. Okay, did I feed my ancestors today? Did I give them new water? Have I meditated with them or talked to them? These are things that you will not have to concern yourself with when you realize that you are your own physical altar. So because you are your ancestors, because they were needed to create who you are a physical walking altar. You don't need to set up anything in your home to remind you if you already have that understanding. Okay. If you already have that understanding, then every time you drink water, you are not just delivering it to yourself, you are delivering it to all of your ancestors who you're in communication with. Okay. Every time you eat something, that energy is also being sent to them as well. Okay. Anytime you meditate, that meditation is going, they're connected to that as well. Okay. When you can understand that, then you have upped your spiritual game because you realize that you do not need to have anything physically. You do not need to remind yourself to feed or offer an offering or give water to your ancestors or anything like that, because you realize that they're within you. Okay. And I would suggest, even if you haven't had an altar yet, for you to start right there with a physical altar, because the things that I'm saying may seem woo-woo, but that's because you haven't taken the first step yet into establishing that conscious reminder in your subconscious that you are connected to the spiritual realm and you're already connected to your ancestors. Okay. So it's very important because a lot of times when we are doing our ancestor offerings and we're learning these things, we get upset with ourselves if we forget to feed them or change their water. We get upset with ourselves if we realize that it's been a couple of days and we haven't even communicated with them. Okay. But here's the thing is that we're always knowing that we need to, because we're like, our ancestors are communicating with us saying this, saying that, saying, oh, when's the last time you fed me? Or they're still, communicating with you because they communicated with you before you had the understanding that you were connected to them, and they will continue to communicate with them. The reason, again, why we do offerings, whether we have it on an altar or we're doing it through our physical vessel, is because we are consciously sending messages back and forth to the spiritual realm, to our ancestors, that we are in assistance of them raising their energy. And we are also receiving assistance from them to raise our energy, our consciousness, our awareness. Hey, Star Peoples, it is my intention for this message to come across to you in a clear, concise way, where you can clearly see the gap that's been bridged between the intuition and the intelligence by using an ancestor altar, either a physical one or by being your spiritual, physical self.